What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And the Giants were back on the practice field today. Of course, we gave you guys an injury update episode yesterday talking about Evan Neal returning to the practice field, John Michael Schmitz returning to the practice field, and while we were recording that, live reaction to Malik Nabers leaving the practice field. So you guys saw our genuine live reaction in yesterday's episode, and yeah, we're obviously a little bit nervous and a little bit scared, but we did get a pretty positive injury update today on Malik Nabers. According to Brian Dable, seems like it's just a mild ankle sprain. He's day-to-day and just a little bit sore. Giants are pretty confident that he escaped any type of fracture or serious injury. Probably just got stepped on or rolled his ankle a little bit. He should be fine. Maybe doesn't play this weekend in the upcoming preseason game, but this is not something that anybody expects to impact him going into the regular season 3 weeks from now. So, seems like the Giants got a little bit of a lucky break. Not what you want to see. Malik Nabers has been tearing it up. He's been dominant, but a pretty positive injury update. Obviously could have been a lot worse, so there you go. Malik Nabers just a little bit sore. And on top of that, we do want to discuss some of these players that we are keeping a close eye on going into the second preseason game as potential breakout candidates, highlighting one of them early as a preview for you guys. Jalen Hyatt had a 70-yard touchdown reception in today's scrimmage at Giants practice. Really exciting stuff there. A lot of high hopes for this Giants receiving room. Of course, headlined by the now recovering Malik Nabers. So we're going to go ahead and dive into all that and so much more. But before we do so, make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so don't miss an episode and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And what is your reaction to this seemingly positive injury update for Malik Nabers?
I'm doing pretty good, and listen, yeah, when we heard that news, we were like, please, God, like, just spare us, and it looks like it's a minor ankle sprain. You know, Dable said that he doesn't think it's fractured. I mean, saying I don't think it's fractured doesn't necessarily breed much optimism for me, because I prefer him to say it is not fractured, but it's safe to say that we're not going to see Malik Nabers for the next 3 weeks, and that's fine with me. Bubble wrap that man. Keep him healthy. Obviously, would have loved to see him get some snaps with Daniel Jones in a live-action setting, but look, we're going to have to see it week 1 against the Vikings, and that's okay. Like, as long as he's healthy during the regular season, I don't give two rats ass about him not playing in preseason game. They get enough practice in training camp, whether it be in the joint practices. They've gotten a lot of chemistry under the belt already, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. He's going to play, what, a quarter? It's like, it's negligible to say the least. It's not going to make a big difference in how he performs in the regular season. So keep him healthy, keep him off the field. That's fine with me until he's ready to go and, you know, ramp him back up into the regular season. Obviously, about a month away at this point, so a little bit less than that. So I'm not like totally concerned. Obviously, we'll keep you guys updated on the day-to-day. Dable said he does consider it a day-to-day injury, which is obviously a lot better than it being a multi-week situation like Drew Lock seems to be. He's progressing, but I wouldn't expect to see him for the next game, if not the next 2. So it's the Tommy DeVito show after Jones gets his action against the Houston Texans this upcoming Saturday. But I want to talk about a couple guys, and you mentioned one of them in terms of potential breakout candidates. We'll talk about 1 or 2. We'll do something as probably the preseason comes to an end about guys that we really like going into the year. But wanted to give you, just a couple of previews on people that are starting to showcase their potential a little bit. And Jalen Hyatt's one of those guys. He's been excellent this summer, and we've talked about this on numerous occasions. I do believe he is the long-term replacement for Darius Slayton. I think that's what the Giants had always intended. Slayton obviously we haven't heard much of him this offseason, but he does have the most chemistry with Daniel Jones. I do think that he is a premier trade candidate for this Giants team if they're struggling. Someone that could end up becoming a really good option for like a team like the Buffalo Bills, who, Keon Coleman, not looking so good so far. I don't really see him as a WR1. I don't know what they thought about that going into it, but Josh Allen doesn't have that many targets, and he could use another one. Slayton definitely makes a lot of sense if the Giants do find themselves in a position where selling makes the most sense, but for now, Hyatt's someone who's taking those shares. He's going to end up taking that role. He is the 9 route. He is the crossing concept guy. He has a lot of upside, a lot of potential here, elite speed. What are you seeing from Hyatt that makes you think, well, I think he is, probably a long-term solution as that WR2 alongside, of course, Malik Nabers. But do you think that his elevation, his enhancement, his more inclusion in this offensive scheme does put Slayton maybe on the outs long-term? I do think this is his last year with the Giants in any case.
I mean, it's likely his last year with the Giants regardless because it's the final year of his contract, and the Giants had an opportunity to extend him earlier this offseason when he held out. They chose not to, so you do have to assume Slayton's final year with the Giants is in 2024 to 25. Now, it could be half of 2024. Maybe you're right. Maybe he does get traded to a team midway through the year that's looking to make a playoff push and needs an extra weapon. Whether that be the Bills who you threw out there, maybe it's the New York Jets who have sniffed around the trade market all offseason long. Don't know. It's really tough to speculate this far out, but yeah, Slayton could be a guy who, if Hyatt's performing really well through the regular season, gets traded midway through the year. But that's really only going to happen if we see the breakout that we anticipate from Hyatt, and the only way that we see that breakout is if he expands his route tree. And luckily, what we've seen from him so far this summer indicates that we will see an expansion of his route tree. We've seen him catch a lot of curls and comebacks and drag routes and slants throughout these training camp practices, which is a positive sign because last season, pretty much all he was running was 9 routes, 7 routes, 8 routes, crossers, all these deep receiving concepts and not a lot underneath. But in order for him to become an every down wideout on the outside, he needs to start making plays 0 to 10 yards, 10 to 15 yards, not just 20, 30 plus yards downfield. So that's going to be the key for Jalin Hyatt, adding a little bit of yards after the catch ability to his repertoire and really just becoming a more refined and polished route runner underneath 15 yards from the line of scrimmage. That's how we see the breakout from Jalin Hyatt. Obviously today, deep reception for a 70-yard touchdown. That's awesome to see. But if he can continue to make plays underneath, that's how we'll see that breakout. That's how we'll feel more comfortable with him being WR2 for this New York Giants team. Of course, Wan'Dale Robinson is another player that we think is going to be a breakout candidate. We think that he looks great. But also, Alex, I think Trey Hawkins is looking pretty good. I don't know if you want to touch on him. I think that he looked really solid in that first preseason game, was targeted 3 times in coverage, only let up 1 reception for 7 yards, had a pass breakup, looked really good. He won the starting job in summer last year, summer practices and preseason games. Maybe he does it again. Maybe he's a breakout candidate. I don't know. You got to temper expectations on a guy who allowed a perfect passer rating against him in coverage last year. Really rough season from Hawkins as a rookie. Going into year 2, I don't know, maybe in this new scheme with Shane Bowen, it's a little bit more simplified and a little bit more conservative. Maybe he could be a breakout candidate. I at least have some sort of hope for that this season. What are your thoughts on Trey Hawkins and then somebody else that you think could be a breakout candidate?
Well, along with Trey Hawkins, Jerome Henderson, our DB coach, did speak very highly of Nick McLeod. And Cordell Flott, you can read through the tea leaves there, like he's picked up the quad injury, he's not playing. This is an opportunity for Nick McLeod to win that job outright, and I think he could be a breakout candidate. He is someone that has a chip on his shoulder, a lot of upside there. He's had some solid performances. He's going to get his shot. The next 2 weeks are going to be big, and if he stays healthy, plays well, he's going to win that CB2 job, and I think that he's shown enough that I think I want to give him an opportunity. Of course, if he struggles, then that's a conversation for another day, but he's someone that could be a sleeper for a breakout kind of role and earning that CB2 job, but alongside him, you mentioned Trey Hawkins, young player, late round draft pick last year, looked really good against the Lions, had a couple of really nice pass breakups in man coverage. He's got the athletic profile. He got bigger. I don't know if you saw him, but he looks stronger. He looks tough, like just more physically built, which should help him in the run defense. And of course has maintained that speed and athletic profile. So he's got all the tangible traits, man. Like if you just look at Trey Hawkins, he looks like a prototypical corner. Now it's just about experience. He might be a year 3 kind of guy that blossoms. That's kind of how I could see this unfolding. Trey Hawkins being that project, 2-year project, develops into a starter in year 3. We'll see how things develop on that end, but I do think that he's got an opportunity here to make a push, a very, very quiet push. But I think that there is a shot that he gets some serious playing time this year, especially if there's injury. I don't think he wins the job, but I think that he's going to be maybe first in line if they don't bring in a veteran. So I am excited for Trey Hawkins. He's someone that I'm definitely watching. I also really like Theo Johnson. We were talking about this morning. Bellinger has kind of fallen off a little bit in terms of the hype around him. I still like Bellinger. I still think he's an okay player. I still think there's some upside there. But Theo Johnson, you don't find, like I keep saying this, guys at 6'6" running 4, 5, 7 40-yard dashes. I mean, he's got ridiculous potential. The Giants, you watch Hard Knocks, they called it prototypical tight end size, with elite speed at the position at that frame. So, and I don't know if you saw that rep against Aiden Hutchinson he had in blocking. Dude put on a show. An absolute beautiful solo block. Stood up Aiden Hutchinson. You find a 6'6" guy like that, it's not easy to get around him. So if he keeps developing his blocking and keeps, I guess, earning the trust from Daniel Jones and the quarterbacks to be a key component in the passing game, Theo Johnson's someone I'm looking at too, man. I think those guys there, lots of upside. And if you go, of course, I don't need to tell you, love Wan'Dale Robinson. He's one of my guys that I think could be a massive player for this Giants offense long term. I think that if he stays healthy, he's going to be a guy that probably surpasses 700 yards, a couple scores under his belt, really nice gadget piece as well. Can do a lot of different things with him. There's just a lot of young talent. I really see a lot of upside. Deontay Banks, another guy could throw into the mix as a breakout. Had a good season last year, but he could have a great season this year. Dane Belton. I mean, there's just so much what if, so much like what can they do, so much potential. It really just comes down to consistency and staying healthy for this Giants team.
Yeah, health is going to be the key variable for every Giants player. A lot of these guys look like breakout candidates. I mean, even some of them look like comeback player of the year candidates. If you want to highlight Daniel Jones for that accolade, if he has a really good season coming off of a torn ACL, maybe he wins an end of season award. But it's all going to come down to health for every single one of these guys that we mentioned. I'm happy that you mentioned Dane Belton. He's a guy who's won a starting job for the time being due to an injury to Tyler Nubin, the rookie. But Tyler Nubin had a couple nice plays in that first preseason game. He also could see a lot of playing time and be a breakout candidate as a rookie this year. So there's a lot of talent across the board for the Giants, a lot of young talent in particular. One other player, Alex, John Michael Schmitz. We obviously discussed him at length in yesterday's episode, so maybe we don't need to dive too deeply into him. But coming back from this injury, rough rookie year, going into year two, one thing that I noticed in that first preseason game, really nice blocking schemes executed and a lot of confidence and cohesion all across the offensive line, and I do credit that to Carmen Bricolo. I think his coaching is making an impact, and I'm hoping that with John Michael Schmitz getting back out there on the practice field, that coaching can impact him, and he could be a really good player for this team. And also, I will highlight the fact that Andre James, I believe is his name, center for the Las Vegas Raiders, former undrafted free agent, has turned into one of the best centers in football. And a lot of that is credited to the fact that Carmen Bricolo developed the hell out of that youngster and made him a really good center in the NFL. I'm hoping to see him have the same impact on John Michael Schmitz. And John Michael Schmitz having a breakout year, think about the domino effect that will have on the rest of the offensive line. So hoping to see him have that breakout season. But Alex, anyone else? I know it was not the loudest day of practice. Lawrence Cager went down with an injury. There's one update there. Dane Belton had a pick. Jason Pinnock had his fourth interception of training camp, or really of the summer, I guess, because training camp's technically over. But that's another name to keep an eye on as a potential breakout guy. Won a starting job last year. Is looking like a total steal off of the Jets waiver wire from a couple seasons ago. Anyone else standing out to you maybe in today's practice, or that you're just keeping a close eye on going into the second preseason game against the Houston Texans?
I mean, listen, I just want to see more from the secondary. I want to see the offensive line compound a good performance, see the receivers do more. They had 15 combined yards in week one of the preseason. They need to do more. Receivers got to step up. Of course, they didn't have the starters, but we'll see that first quarter with Daniel Jones. Maybe it just may only be one drive, to be quite honest with you. I don't think John Michael Schmitz or Evan Neal plays in this upcoming game, but maybe the third one we'll see. There's just a lot. There's a lot to see, a lot for this Giants team to prove, and I'm excited to see what happens, man. This is going to be pretty fun next couple weeks leading up to the regular season. Lots to happen, lots of position battles. We keep you guys updated on all of those, and I think maybe we'll dive a little bit deeper into some of the performances in the next preseason game because the starters will be out there, so we'll do a more comprehensive deep dive for you guys and give you some information. But yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot of young talent, like you said, a lot of young talent, and I think that's exactly where the Giants want it to be. A lot of upside, a lot of potential, and some of the core pieces. Deontay Banks, 23. Kayvon Thibodeau, 23. Malik Nabers, 21. Talk about young talent. These guys are very young. Like, not just young, very young. Which is where you want to be, especially with the future being the way it is with money, some veterans under contract, and, we'll see what happens at quarterback. So there's a lot to unfold. We got you guys covered every single step of the way.
Absolutely. I'm definitely looking forward to this preseason game. Can't wait to see the starters actually take the field, whether we're talking Daniel Jones returning from his injury, our first look at Devin Singletary, seeing Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns take the field for the first time. Whatever you want to highlight, there's a lot of excitement to be generated. So it's going to be a fun one. This should be the time where the Giants preseason really starts to ramp up and we start to get a better look at what this regular season lineup is going to look like. I think that if Evan Neal is healthy and ready to play either in this second preseason game or by the third, that's a player that I'm definitely keeping a close eye on as he kind of falls into this now backup role, but obviously has potential to take over a starting job if he plays well because he is such a highly touted prospect coming out of college a couple years ago. So there's just a lot of storylines to follow right now. It's going to be a lot of fun over these next few weeks. And of course, we're going to have all of those covered right here on Fireside Giants. So Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we'll catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.
Perfect.